Have you ever noticed how a single word can ruin your entire day? How one unexpected event can send your mind spiraling into anxiety? What if I told you that this suffering is optional? There's an ancient Buddhist teaching that reveals something extraordinary. When you truly see reality as it is, nothing can disturb your peace. Not criticism, not loss, not even the chaos of the world around you. Today, I'm going to share a wisdom so profound that it has the power to transform how you experience every single moment of your life. Imagine walking through a storm completely untouched by the rain. Not because you're avoiding it, but because you've understood something fundamental about storms themselves. This is what clear seeing offers. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how to cultivate this unshakable inner freedom. Let me tell you about a monk I once heard of who lived in a monastery high in the mountains. One day, a massive fire swept through the valley, destroying everything in its path, including the monastery where he had lived for 30 years. When asked how he felt about losing everything, he smiled gently and said something that left everyone speechless. "I lost nothing. I simply witnessed change doing what change always does." How could someone respond this way? What did he see that most of us miss? Most of us move through life in a constant state of reaction. Something good happens, and we feel elated. Something bad occurs, and we crash into despair. We're like leaves blown endlessly by the wind, with no control over our emotional state. This isn't just exhausting, it's a prison we don't even realize we're in. The Buddha called this dukkha, often translated as suffering, but more accurately understood as a pervasive unsatisfactoriness with life. We suffer not primarily because bad things happen, but because of how we perceive and relate to everything that happens. We create stories, attach meanings, and build entire castles of emotion on foundations that don't actually exist. Think about the last time someone criticized you. What really happened? Sound waves traveled through air, vibrated your eardrums, and your brain processed them into words. That's the objective reality. But what did your mind do? It probably created an entire narrative. They don't respect me. I'm not good enough. Everyone must think I'm incompetent. Notice something crucial here. None of those thoughts were in the original words. You added them. This is what the Buddhist teaching calls papanka, or mental proliferation. We take a simple moment and explode it into 1,000 fragments of anxiety, resentment, and fear. The original event might last seconds, but we carry the suffering for days, months, sometimes years. Here's what's truly remarkable. This happens not because reality is disturbing us, but because we're not seeing reality at all. We're seeing our interpretations, our fears, our desires projected onto reality. We're living in a dream of our own making, and then wondering why we feel so disturbed. The Buddha taught something revolutionary 2,500 years ago that modern neuroscience is only now beginning to confirm. Everything you experience is a construction of your mind. You're not seeing the world as it is. You're seeing a mental model, a simulation built from your memories, beliefs, and conditioning. When you look at a rose, you don't see the rose itself. You see, beautiful, romantic, my mother's favorite flower, expensive, thorns that hurt. You see every association your mind has collected over a lifetime. The actual rose, the simple reality of it, is completely obscured by layers of mental commentary. This is why two people can experience the exact same event and have completely different reactions. One person receives constructive feedback and feels motivated to improve. Another person hears the same words and feels devastated. The difference isn't in the event. The difference is in what each person is seeing when they look at that event. The Buddhist path of clear seeing, called vipassana, or insight meditation, is about training yourself to perceive the difference between what's actually happening and what your mind is adding to it. It's about seeing through the illusion to touch reality directly. Let me share a powerful example. Imagine you're walking through a forest at dusk, and you see a snake on the path. Your heart races, adrenaline floods your system, fear grips you. But then you look more carefully and realize it's not a snake at all, it's just a rope. Instantly, all that fear vanishes. Nothing changed about the object on the ground. What changed was your perception. You saw clearly. This is exactly what happens with most of our suffering. We're reacting to snakes that are actually ropes, to threats that exist only in our interpretation, to problems that are creations of our misperception. Buddhism teaches that when you see clearly, you recognize three fundamental characteristics of all existence. Understanding these isn't intellectual knowledge, it's direct perception that transforms everything. The first characteristic is impermanence, called anicca in Pali. Everything changes. Every single thing. This seems obvious, yet we constantly resist it. We want good moments to last forever and bad moments to never come. This resistance to impermanence is a primary source of our disturbance. When you truly see impermanence, not just think about it but perceive it directly in every moment, something extraordinary happens. You stop clinging so desperately to pleasant experiences, and you stop pushing away unpleasant ones. Why? Because you see that both are already disappearing. The beautiful sunset is fading while you watch it. The physical pain is shifting and changing every second. Even your most intense emotions are moving, flowing, transforming. A master once said, "If you want to enjoy the cherry blossoms, you must accept that they will fall." When you deeply understand impermanence, you can finally be present with life as it is, not as you wish it would be. The second characteristic is dukkha, that unsatisfactory quality of existence when we don't see clearly. But here's what's crucial. Dukkha isn't saying life is suffering. It's saying that clinging to what changes leads to suffering. When you try to grasp water, it slips through your fingers. When you try to hold onto anything in this universe of constant change, you create suffering. The third characteristic is anatta, or non-self. This is perhaps the most profound and misunderstood teaching. It doesn't mean you don't exist. It means the solid, permanent, separate self you think you are is another illusion, another mental construction. When you look directly at your experience, you can't find this fixed self anywhere. There's just a flowing stream of sensations, thoughts, emotions, perceptions, constantly arising and passing away. So what does it mean to see clearly? It means perceiving what's actually present without the layers of judgment, story, and emotional reactivity. It means experiencing the raw, direct reality of each moment before your mind starts its commentary. Let's make this practical. Right now, wherever you are, you're probably hearing sounds. Just notice, when you hear a sound, there's a split second where it's just a sound, pure sensation. Then, almost instantly, your mind labels it, that's a car. That's annoying. I wish it would be quiet. Clear seeing is staying with that first moment, that direct experience before the labeling begins. When you practice this consistently, something remarkable happens. You start to notice that most of your disturbance doesn't come from what's happening, it comes from what you're thinking about what's happening. The event, and your suffering about the event, are two completely different things. A student once asked her teacher, "When I'm criticized, how can I not feel hurt?" The teacher replied, "Who told you that you're hurt? First there are words. Then there's a sensation in your body. Then comes a thought. I am hurt. But if you look closely at the actual moment, where is this I that is hurt? Can you find it?" This isn't about suppressing emotions or pretending you don't feel anything. It's about seeing that your emotions are passing phenomena, like weather patterns moving through the sky. The sky itself remains undisturbed. When you identify with the sky rather than the weather, you've found that place of unshakable peace. Clear seeing also means recognizing the stories you tell yourself. Notice how often you use phrases like, I always, they never. This means, I am. These are stories, not facts. Someone cuts you off in traffic. The fact, one car changed lanes in front of another. The story, they're a terrible person. They don't respect anyone. I'm not valued. The world is full of selfish people. See the difference? The Buddha didn't just teach philosophy. He offered a practical method for developing clear seeing, mindfulness. But mindfulness isn't what most people think it is. It's not about clearing your mind or achieving some blissful state. It's about paying attention to reality with precision and consistency. The practice begins with the breath, not because the breath is special, but because it's always available and always changing. You simply notice the sensation of breathing, air moving in and out, the rise and fall of your chest or abdomen. This sounds simple, but try it for even 1 minute and you'll discover something astonishing. Your mind doesn't want to stay present. It would rather be anywhere else, thinking about anything else. Within seconds, your attention will drift to planning, remembering, judging, fantasizing. This isn't a problem. This is the practice. Each time you notice you've drifted, you're experiencing a moment of clear seeing. You're seeing that you were lost in thought. Then, gently, you return your attention to the breath. This cycle of drifting and returning, repeated thousands of times, is how you train the mind to see clearly. But here's what makes this practice truly transformative. You begin to apply this same quality of attention to everything in your life. Walking, you feel your feet touching the ground. Eating, you taste the food. Listening to someone speak, you're actually present with their words rather than planning your response. In moments of strong emotion, you feel the physical sensations in your body rather than getting lost in the story about why you're feeling this way. A monk once described it perfectly. Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. The activities don't change. What changes is the quality of seeing with which you do them. When you see clearly, you discover the space between stimulus and response. This might be the most practical benefit of Buddhist wisdom. Most people live their entire lives in a state of constant reaction. Something happens, and immediately, automatically, they react based on their conditioning, their fears, their habitual patterns. Clear seeing creates space. Between the moment something happens and your response to it, there's a gap. In that gap lives your freedom. Let me illustrate this with a story. 2 monks were walking along a riverbank when they encountered a woman who needed to cross but was afraid of the current. Without hesitation, the older monk picked her up, carried her across, and set her down on the other side. The monks continued walking. Hours later, the younger monk, who had been brooding in silence, finally burst out. "How could you do that? We're not supposed to touch women." The older monk looked at him calmly and said, "I put her down hours ago. Why are you still carrying her? Do you see what happened?" The younger monk couldn't see clearly. He was caught in his interpretation, his rules, his judgment. The older monk saw the situation as it was. A person needed help, help was given, the moment passed. No story, no disturbance. This is the difference between reacting and responding. Reacting is automatic, unconscious, driven by the past. Responding is conscious, appropriate, arising from clear seeing of the present moment. When someone speaks harshly to you, reacting might mean immediately speaking harshly back, defending yourself, or withdrawing in hurt. Responding might mean taking a breath, feeling the emotion in your body, seeing that this person is suffering, and choosing how to engage based on wisdom rather than wounded pride. Viktor Frankl, who survived Nazi concentration camps, wrote, "Between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." As you develop clear seeing, a quality naturally emerges that Buddhism calls upekkha, or equanimity. This isn't indifference or detachment in the cold sense. It's a warm, engaged balance that remains steady regardless of circumstances. It's the peace that the monk in the burning monastery experienced. Equanimity means you can fully experience joy without clinging to it, knowing it will change. You can fully experience pain without being destroyed by it, knowing it too will change. You're not trying to control your experience. You're not resisting what is. You're simply present with whatever arrives, because you see clearly that everything is workable, everything passes, and your essential nature remains untouched by the content of your experience. Think of the ocean. On the surface, there might be massive waves during a storm. But if you dive deep enough, you reach a place of stillness that exists regardless of what's happening on the surface. Equanimity is living from that depth. This doesn't mean you stop caring or become passive. In fact, the opposite happens. When you're not constantly disturbed by your reactions, you have far more energy and clarity to respond effectively to life's challenges. You can engage fully with both joy and sorrow without being swept away by either. I once read about a therapist who worked with terminally ill patients. She noticed that some patients, facing death, were peaceful and even joyful, while others were tormented by fear and regret. The difference wasn't in their circumstances, which were all difficult. The difference was in how clearly they were seeing their situation. Those who could accept the reality of impermanence, who could see their life as it actually was rather than as they wished it to be, found a freedom that their circumstances couldn't touch. This is the promise of clear seeing, not that your life will become perfect, but that you'll find an inner sanctuary that remains undisturbed regardless of what's happening around you or even to you. Let's bring this wisdom into the concrete reality of your daily experience. How do you actually practice clear seeing when you're stuck in traffic, when your partner says something hurtful, when you didn't get the promotion you worked so hard for? First, pause. Literally stop for just 3 seconds before you react. In those 3 seconds, take a conscious breath and ask yourself, what's actually happening right now? Not your interpretation, not your story, but what's objectively present. This simple pause can break the automatic chain of reactivity that creates so much suffering. Second, notice the physical sensations in your body. Disturbance always has a physical component. Tightness in your chest, tension in your jaw, a knot in your stomach. Instead of thinking about why you feel disturbed, simply feel the sensations themselves. Where exactly are they located? Are they moving or still? Hot or cold? Sharp or dull? This shifts you from the story to the direct experience. Third, recognize the difference between pain and suffering. Pain is inevitable. You experience loss, illness, disappointment. These are part of being human. But suffering is what your mind adds to pain. It's the resistance, the "this shouldn't be happening," the catastrophizing, the self-pity. When you see this distinction clearly, you can allow pain to be present without multiplying it with suffering. Fourth, practice gratitude for the present moment exactly as it is. This doesn't mean you can't work to change things. It means you stop arguing with reality while you're responding to it. As Byron Katie says, when you argue with reality, you lose, but only 100% of the time. Finally, remember that clear seeing is a skill, not a trait. You wouldn't expect to play the piano beautifully after one lesson. Similarly, you're training your mind in a completely new way of perceiving. Be patient with yourself. Every moment you catch yourself lost in reactivity and return to clear seeing is a victory. So here we are. You now understand that most of your disturbance doesn't come from what happens to you but from how you're seeing what happens to you. You've learned that reality itself is rarely the problem. The problem is the layers of interpretation, judgment, and story you've been adding to reality without even realizing it. The monk who lost everything in the fire wasn't superhuman. He simply saw clearly that the monastery was never his to possess. It was a temporary arrangement of matter that existed for a while, and then changed into something else, as all things do. He didn't see loss because he never believed in permanent ownership to begin with. This is the freedom that comes from clear seeing. But understanding this intellectually changes nothing. You must practice. You must train your mind daily to see through the illusions it creates. Start today. Not tomorrow, not when life calms down, right now. Here's your practice for this week. 3 times a day, set a reminder on your phone. When it goes off, stop whatever you're doing and take 3 conscious breaths. With each breath, ask yourself, what am I actually experiencing right now, underneath all my thoughts about it? Just notice. No judgment, no trying to change anything, just clear seeing. And here's the beautiful paradox. When you stop trying to change your experience and simply see it clearly, everything changes. The disturbance doesn't disappear because your circumstances improve. It dissolves because you've seen through it. If this wisdom resonates with you, if you're ready to stop being a leaf blown by every wind and become the sky that holds all weather without disturbance, then commit to this practice. Share this video with someone who's struggling with the ups and downs of life. Subscribe to this channel for more teachings that can transform your relationship with reality itself. Remember, when you see clearly, nothing disturbs you. Not because nothing challenging happens, but because you've understood something profound about the nature of reality and your relationship to it. You've found the peace that was always there, just waiting to be recognized. The journey begins with a single moment of clear seeing. Let this be that moment.